Hi, Jacob Kaluzny here and welcome to Instant Threat Modeling, a series of 5-minute videos on threat modeling. And today's really interesting topic is hacking and securing face biometrics. If you follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter, you may have noticed that we've published an article on hacking and securing face biometrics. You can find the link below. So this story starts more than 6 years ago when I've been testing voice biometrics, and since then I was sure that face biometrics will be on the rise at some point. Back in 2019, few of our clients asked us to assess security of few face biometric systems that they were about to buy, not to mention that the COVID situation sped up things this year. So we've came up with a threat model and a methodology to test these solutions. There are multiple vendors on the market. Some of the engines are deployed on-prem in the bank's infrastructure, some of them are hosted in a third-party cloud environment. That's the engine. Third-party will provide a mobile or web SDK to integrate with the service via an API. And there are multiple deployments, allowing existing clients to prove their identity and also new clients to sign up for service without the need of visiting the branch. What happens in the AI machine learning rocket science magic box? Some solutions will ask the client for a photo of both sides of ID. Most of them will ask for a selfie, and all of them require a form of a video, usually challenging the client with some numbers to read or moving the face in specific directions. Banks and other highly controlled entities have an advantage here and access to ID database, allowing to confirm ID number and its data. Otherwise, they just have an access to existing clients' databases. Who are the threat actors? We have an external attacker that wants to authenticate as the victim. They can upgrade themselves to an attacker with malware on the existing client's device. Third party, the vendor itself or its country, government, and a malicious user pretending to be innocent. What can go wrong? There are so many ideas, I had to number them. First, the deployment type. If you choose third-party cloud, you risk database compromise. On the same note, if you choose on-premise, probably you're not the only client with on-prem requirement. The database is not shared with the face biometrics vendor, and so that the machine learning solution is not learning. A fourth-party compromise, so your competitor gets hacked, or a completely another service that is using the same face biometric solution or a completely different one gets compromised. And if your solution is vulnerable to replay attacks, this data may be used to compromise your clients. Next is the API. All kinds of technical vulnerabilities apply here, including bypassing the biometrics in a non-biometric, boring way, which is a really common case here. Do you test the SDKs provided by the vendor? Are you sure about the security of their third-party libraries, being your fourth-party libraries? Think about it. An SDK integrated with the mobile banking application puts the whole application at risk. One solution allowed a bypass, which is a result of a weak SDK and API architecture. So what happened here was that the checks were performed only on the client side in the mobile application, not sending any data to the API, allowing to skip the check locally. An SDK is a place where the request originates to the API, so it's a perfect attack surface for a man-in-the-middle attack, especially when the photos and videos are uploaded to the third party, not in your secure channel on-prem. To trigger some of the next attacks, an attacker would need to use a man-in-the-middle attack against themselves to intercept the connection. When authenticating an existing client, the banks have a history of previous authentication and also a scan of the original ID. Not validating this data is a threat. When signing up a new client, the bank needs to confirm whether the person in front of the mobile phone wants to sign up, they hold a valid ID, and that this ID belongs to this person. Fake ID with fake data here. That's the Keanu Reeves fake ID from the article I mentioned. Also, fake ID allows to enroll as the victim before the victim. So what about attacking the enrollment process itself if it happens in an uncontrolled environment, for example shopping mall or workplace? Fake ID with valid data here. Think about victim's real ID leaked 5 years ago with a photo changed to an attacker's. This works great if the national ID database does not allow to compare the photos. An attack scenario that I really liked was SQL injection payload in the victim's name on the physical ID. So we reached spoofing. Fun fact is that during our tests in mid-2019, Poland introduced a law to specifically ban printing and selling fake IDs, the physical duplicates. You could just buy them on the internet. So spoofing in case of possible traffic interception, which is man in the middle on ourselves, may just require a digital version of the counterfeit. And here is the problem with most of the biometric system. Once the attacker is able to fuzz the system with tens of photos and videos, they may be able to learn how the model works and how to generate the false positives. Let's hack biometrics then. In the article I've mentioned, you can find myself holding a one-to-one copy of my colleague printed on a standard A4 paper with holes in it for the eyes and mouth. Yes, it worked against one of the solutions. What may have worked as well was animating any Facebook quality photo to achieve liveness. This is a funny one. Mixing different videos gave spectacular results. Mixing few frames of static photos of the actual victim with the video of the attacker performing the challenge. After uploading the video, the solution calculated a similarity score. This was a maximum observed similarity across the whole video, not the average one. We found one challenge to be too easy to bypass. The algorithm asked for the very same challenge all the time. Bonus thread here, face relay. Think about it as similar to CAPTCHA relay or SMB relay. The victim thinks they're on some fintech page, but in reality their bank account gets hacked in the very same time. This threat will get more likely together with the rising adoption of biometrics without FIDO2 across the internet. Another question is the application vulnerable to cross-site biometrics authentication or a cross-site biometrics forgery? And the last threat, which is an attack scenario exploiting a vulnerability of replay, denying that the transaction was done. So imagine this scenario. An attacker is a client of a bank and they prepare a replay attack to authorize a transaction. And then during the actual attack execution, they make sure that they are in a place with some video surveillance or any way that they can prove that they have not authorized that transaction. Instant mitigations. For database compromise, comply with national regulations. Otherwise, optimize for the long-term quality, so minimize the equal error rate. Fourth-party compromise requires a supply chain-based threat model and a replay attack detection. Technical API attack vectors require a base threat model for APIs. Avoid third-party SDK vulnerabilities with an SDK-based threat model. All biometrics checks need to be performed server-side. Man-in-the-middle mitigation requires proper TLS settings. You can make traffic interception harder with double encryption or obfuscation, but it's not possible to mitigate it completely. Validate existing ID data. Protect the enrollment process. Validate against national ID databases if you have access to such. Validate text format on the document. Introduce counterfeit detection and antispoofing. Fuzzing requires detection as well. Liveness challenge should detect animations and mixing videos. Proper metrics across the whole video. Random challenges should stop spoofing and replay attacks too. Protect the solutions against relay attacks. The last one is non-repudiation. The question is if there exists a technical mitigation for biometrics at all. This was instant threat modeling of Face Biometrics software. Have a look at our article describing few of these attack vectors in detail and well, let me know if you need help with securing your biometrics solution. Cheers!